Westwood. I worked in the London bureau from the end of 1981 until mid-July 1987. I was first approached by New York about going to London in December of 81 when martial law was declared in Poland. And the country was being run by a military. So New York asked me, because I have an Eastern European background, and I do understand Polish fairly well, I don't speak it very well, that perhaps I'd go to London and help out getting material out of Warsaw. By the time I got there, actually, Warsaw had pretty much figured this out for themselves. They would take some tape out to the airport, find a likely candidate on a plane going to London, give them some cash and a tape, and told that person to expect to be met on the other end, probably with another load of cash. News was beginning to pop throughout, of course, Europe, Middle East, and even within the UK. So it became an extremely busy time for that time. The provisional IRA had a bombing campaign in London, Hyde Park, Regent's Park. The UK got into a war with Argentina over the Falkland Islands. There was an invasion of Lebanon by Israel, and so on and so forth. So just a tremendous amount of news. We actually didn't operate out of Carburton Street at that time. We had a couple of floors on Great Portland Street, and Carburton Street was a building that was primarily council flats, and ABC had a small portion at one end that was used for a production operation. I was brought in as a senior manager. The ABC already had a bureau chief. His name was Bill Mildyke. I knew him from Washington days, and he was handling the whole operation. But I was brought in as a senior manager, and Paul Friedman came in. He had been brought in. He had been working for NBC News and was given the title of Director of News for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. As it turns out, Bill Mildyke died unexpectedly of a heart attack, actually, in, I believe, 83. And it was only then that I was given the title of bureau chief and ran the bureau along with Paul Friedman. When you walked into the newsroom in London, you heard the wire machines, and you also heard the keys of the telephone system making clicking noises, because the telephone system there operated with these keys that you had to, push up or pull down in order to take a call or delete a call. And it was almost sort of on a dashboard. So all of these little noises were very prominent in the newsroom when you walked in. It's as noted, it's very quiet today apparently, but it was a pretty noisy time back 30 years ago. There was the question from executives in New York as to whether we might actually be able to take over all of the Carburton Street building. And so work was begun in that regard. And after a lot of work, a lot of layouts, in fact, design layouts done by both me and Paul Friedman, we did, and they evicted, I guess, all of the people inhabiting the council flats at Carburton. They took over all of the Carburton Street building and laid out a design for the 5 floors. We were responsible for coverage of throughout Europe, Middle East, Northern Africa. We had a vast region to cover. We had a partner in those days with ITN that provided much of the material that we needed of news out of the UK. We, of course, Eurovision. The Bureau was probably somewhere around 50 to 75 people. It expanded to 150 people. And we had correspondents throughout, in bureaus throughout Europe. David Ensor was assigned to Warsaw. Walt Rogers in Moscow, Bob Trout in Madrid. We had Pierre Salinger in quite a large and responsible team of people in Paris, Germany. We had 14, as I remember, 14 foreign bureaus. I would say the whole 6 years that I spent there was extremely satisfying. We had an excellent bureau with extremely good and hardworking people. It was a very energetic, synergistic operation, a great, very close family of people working for, as we know, a sort of common cause, to cover or to get material and to cover ourselves a vast coverage region. I think of the time I spent in London as in many ways the highlight of my career. And so I suppose I will answer the question that way, that it was not only perhaps the highlight, but and it's the highlight because it was in toto extremely satisfying for, I think, what was accomplished there in those days.